Hello again, and it's time for yet another tier list. I know I've been doing a lot of these. This is not what I'm going to be doing the entirety of my channel. Okay, I'm not just going to spam tier lists. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm just on one of those kicks, phases, or whatever. My last video was the Bloodborne areas tier list. Wow, I just had a brain fart. Anyway, my last tier list was the Bloodborne areas. Now I'm going to do the bosses. This is the big build up. This is like the important stuff. Like, I mean, a lot of people will talk about like, oh, what's wow, another brain fart. What is going on with me today? No, a lot of people will talk about like, oh, what's your favorite weapon? What's your favorite area? But nothing tops the what's your favorite boss conversation. We all know this. This is what Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Sekiro, and the upcoming Elden Ring is all going to be about, essentially. I mean, obviously, there's more stuff to it than that, but we really care about the bosses. So I saved this for the second part in my Bloodborne tier list series. It's not even a series, I'm just doing these. Anyway, same as before, we have 5 tiers, S through D, and we have our bosses down here. So let's get into it. Starting off with Amygdala. Amygdala, I don't know what people say. As a boss, I think he's middle of the road. By the way, I'm not going to approach these as a first time experience. I'm going to approach these as my experience overall. So, all the hours I've put in, every character I've played, that's what I'm basing it off of. It's not, oh, a first impression or anything like that. I've played a lot of hours. I have a lot of save files, and I've beaten all these bosses plenty of times. That's what I'm basing it off of, my current knowledge now. Anyway, with that out of the way, Amygdala. Amygdala. I'm going to say Amygdala. I think that's right. Anyway, I think as a boss, it's middle of the road. I sort of got into like the speedrun strats for this game because for a while I was like, oh, I think I could probably speedrun this game. Not to like, not to the skill of like, getting a world record ever, but at least dropping or decreasing my in-game time with one playthrough. You know what I mean? So, and I really like the speedrun strats for him. They're really cool, honestly. Like probably some of the best. But as a boss himself, the fight, I think he's like C. I really don't have much else to say. He's just got a lot of arms. Some of his attacks are annoying, but if you get the strats down right, Bloodstarved Beast. A lot of people hate this boss. I hated this boss too in the beginning, but now it's like you just throw one of those pungent cocktails in the corner and you just wail on him and you're good. I think being the boss of Old Yarnum is great. It's fitting, definitely, for him. I think he's probably B, middle of the road. Excuse me. Good early game boss. He's still early game. Excuse me. The Cleric Beast. Oh my god, the first boss in the game. This is like, well, funny story. When I first played this game, when I experienced this boss, I was like, oh great, now story progression. And then I found out later that he was optional. I'm like, what the fuck? So like the first boss, arguably people will come across as optional. Like that's kind of weird. At least to me, it's weird. But I think he's all right. I think he's like a C tier, honestly. Because it's essentially a majority of people will fight him first, and then just going back to wail on him in New Game Plus or just starting a new game because you know his stuff and he's right there. Like it's enjoyable. So next we got Parl. I think Parl is a great fight. I mean, he's. I feel like he's a lot easier than I anticipate because I go in there a lot and I'm like, oh, he's gonna wreck me, and then I fuck him up in like a minute. But it's a fun fight. I can really. Anyway, Abretus. I've fought Abretus like twice, maybe 3 times. I rarely go there because I just don't want to bother going with the Upper Cathedral Ward. It's not so much that I don't like fighting this boss, but I like that it's like essentially overlooking what looks like a different version of Rom or another creature in Rom's species or whatever. Like, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's definitively Rom, but like, I don't know. But I think this is a C tier for me. Gascoigne is actually decent. It's in the game anyway. It's an introductory to hunter fights, and he's really aggressive and he's really good. And technically, he's the first boss in the story because you can skip the Cleric Beast. And it really sets a precedent for the rest of the game. So I'm gonna put him in A. We have Gehrman. I think Gehrman goes in A as well. Hunter fights I think are just that much better than like beast fights in in difficulty. I think they're better because I think hunter fights are more difficult. But with something like this, like any of these, you can just wail on them. But like with these, they can parry you and fuck you up, and they will. But I mean, the arena, like look at this background, like the white flowers, the fog, it's gorgeous. And then like I don't think anyone really expected it. It was pretty much a huge twist as far as I'm concerned, unless there's like some hints in dialogue or hints in item descriptions that I missed. But as far as I know, I was not um, I was not expecting to have to fight the guy that's been in a wheelchair the whole game. Like they pulled the rug out from under my feet with that one, so I thought that was really cool. Lady Maria, this is S tier. A lot of people probably say the same thing. Maybe these two tiers with her, but I mean it's great. Like you have to fight the living failures, and then you go in, and it's this gigantic like wooden area, and she's just chilling there in the seat, and then it starts, and then guarding the whole the clock thing, the clock tower thing, the celestial dial or whatever it is. It's a great fight, and then the three phases, like that's so cool, man. And then tie in the lore between her and Gehrman. Oh man. Anyway. Then we have Lawrence. Lawrence is D tier. I have a difficulty with Lawrence because he's just obnoxious. Like a lot of people are like, I think he's the hardest boss in the game. Like seriously, there's so many times. I'll get to this later, but there are times when I've tried to fight him more times than I've tried to fight other difficult bosses, and it takes me a while. And it's kind of obnoxious, but I mean, I like his design. It's a better design than the Cleric Beast because he's on fire, but as a boss fight, D tier. Living Failures is D tier. I don't have to explain why. I mean, there's that glitch you can do with them to get like 60 million blood echoes or whatever, but I'm not gonna bother with that. And like the fact that it's like a gank fight essentially, like there's a crap ton of these. I mean, the arena is better than the boss itself, like the giant sunflower in the middle, and then Anyway, moving on. Martyr Ligurius is like a B. Yeah, Martyr Ligurius is like a B. I like his abilities. I like his weapon. I like his get up. I like his arena too, like the rooftop of Canehurst. I think I mentioned that in the last video. Um, and because it's Canehurst, I think I mean, his movement's pretty quick, and then like the a little more lore aspect, but the crown thing where you put it on after you beat him, and it reveal anyway. But yeah, B tier absolutely. Ludwig is absolutely an S tier boss. I don't have to explain why. The music is absolutely incredible. The mid battle cutscene is absolutely incredible. His move set, he's hyper aggressive. His move set in the second phase is amazing, and it's essentially like I saw someone point this out in a video I watched recently. I can't remember who did it, but if anybody knows, anyway, um, it's cool to see Ludwig do the reverse of essentially every other Soulsborne game, because usually when someone's doing a transformation, they're becoming more monstrous. But this, Ludwig is becoming more human, and that's really cool. And you can actually see him like grasp it in the cutscene while he's fighting you. It's so cool. We got Murgo's Wet Nurse. I like this fight. Um, I don't hate it. It's entertaining. It's fun. Like it feels like it's super interactive and fun. So I'm gonna put it in B. Mikolash is A tier for me. Um, I when I first went through the game, I didn't know any strats, so I just tried to kill him and failed a couple times, and then I got it. And then in subsequent runs, I found out that there was two easy ways to do it. There's either the super cheese way, where you can get him to half health and throw poison knives at him, and he'll just die and keep respawning himself at that same spot. Or you can do the speedrun strats, which you can prevent him from going in that room in the second stage, and you can just beat him out in the hallway. But it's fun. I actually like it. I like how, like, that whole area that it takes place in, you're like chasing him around the whole time. I really like that. I mean, I don't like the chase aspect, but actually fighting him is fun for me, so that's why he's up here. Moon Presence. Um, Moon Presence is B tier. I mean, I get it's essentially like a secret lore boss, I guess, because the Moon Presence is like, I don't know, like Garamond was the first hunter. We're doing this because I don't know, the Moon Presence asked for it or something. I'm getting the lore wrong, and I didn't do a lot of research, and I don't remember a lot of stuff from this game. Unfortunately, I haven't played in a long time. But from what I understand, the Moon Presence, um, this is happening essentially because of the Moon Presence or something, like what's going on in the game, like why the hunt happens or whatever. And I'm probably wrong, so if I'm wrong, correct me. I don't care. But that's the way I interpret it. Just like TLDR version anyway. The One Reborn. This is a fight I enjoy. I don't enjoy having to kill those six people above, like in the top floor of the building. But if you use the speedrun strats, you don't have to. Like, you can just kill them immediately. But this is like a C tier boss fight, honestly. Orphan of Kos. Here we go. A lot of DLC up here, but DLC is S tier. Um, yeah, DLC pretty much, except for these two, are S tier. You either get very, very top tier or bottom tier with these bosses. No, so the Orphan of Kos, um, a little backstory. I didn't play Bloodborne at all until earlier this year, and I finally sat down to play it, and I told myself, before I beat the game, I'm gonna, like, while beating the game the first time, I'm gonna beat all the bosses. So I went through the DLC, I did everything and all that. And I have so much like hype and anxiety built up from watching YouTube videos of other people playing like speed runs or other people doing like challenge runs, and consistently people saying the Orphan of Kos is the hardest boss in the entire Soul series. The whole build up is like, oh my god, when I'm finally going in there, I'm like, I'm gonna get shit on so hard. But I didn't. I I beat the Orphan of Kos in my very first playthrough on my very first try, and I was absolutely astounded. Mind you, I didn't have any blood vials left, but I mean, I still did it somehow. But it's such a good fight, and it's still an entertaining fight to me. Like, I'll go in there and I'll be like, all right, old friend, let's go. Like, I love the area. I love I love the shoreline. I love the sun in the distance. I love the wrecked ships in the distance. I love the cutscene where he's essentially like birthed out of Kos. Like, the whole thing is cool. His attacks are cool, and to be honest, he's really not that aggressive. Like, Ludwig is far more aggressive than the Orphan of Kos. Seriously, like the Orphan of Kos has like a total of like six attacks. I mean, Ludwig probably does too, but he just does them more often. But I think out of these three, I have less trouble with these two than I do with the Orphan of Kos. But that's just me. Anyway, let's move on from that. Rom. I hate Rom. My first playthrough, I got stuck on Rom. I was so stuck on Rom. And it's so annoying. Plus, it's a super gank boss with all the fucking spiders, and he teleports around. He's a C tier. No, he's a D tier for me. Fuck you, Rom. Piece of shit. Um, Shadows. Shadows of Yarnum. It's another gank boss. Considering I've killed the Shadows of Yarnum more often than not using the glitch that freezes them, they're kind of easy. So I'm gonna put them in C because they either give up a fight that's annoying or they don't give up a fight at all and it's not even fun. So you know what, D tier. Fuck it. That's where they belong with that reasoning. Celestial Emissary, that's another D tier right before the Abritus fight. Another gank boss, and then halfway through, second phase kicks in. You got the giant boy walking around. Um, Vicar Amelia is A tier. I like the lore behind Vicar. I like the setting. I like the boss arena. I like the transformation cutscene. And I like. I don't know if it's the truth or not, but my interpretation is that scream that she's giving out during the boss fight is the pain she's in because of this transformation. That's what I understand. That's what I believe. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Fine. But it's really cool to think of it that way. And then the Witches of Hemwick, they're fucking D tier. Like, get fucked. Seriously. Like, that's like the worst gotcha ever. Like, oh, you killed the boss. No, you didn't. And it's a trash boss anyway. And then the best thing is, like, you can go down there, quit out, and use all your fucking insight and come back and only fight the witch. Like, that's so cheesy, but it's so, like, that's so cool about it. But, I mean, this boss is trash. This boss is absolute garbage. Anyway, so that's our completed list. We have 3 in S tier. We have Lady Maria, Ludwig, and Orphan of Kos. We have our A tiers: Father Gascoigne, Gehrman, Mikolash, surprising, I know, and Vicar Amelia. We have our B tier, which is Bloodstarved Beast, Parl, Ligurius, Murgo's Wet Nurse, and the Moon Presence. We have our C tier, which is Amygdala, Cleric Beast, Abridus, and the One Reborn. And then we have our D tier, which is Lawrence, the Living Failures, Rom, Shadows, Celestial Emissary, and the Witch of Hemwick. The Witches of Hemwick, I should say. And that's it. That does it for this. That does it for this one. I know a lot of people probably put Mikolash way lower, and I've seen tier lists where Mikolash is lower because he's just obnoxious, but I think it fits his character, and especially with his lore, I don't know. I just really enjoy having that fight. You know what? I will do some editing. I will put Moon Presence up here. There. That sounds a little better. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to do Lawrence some justice, okay? I'm going to put him in C tier because Lawrence being on fire and then he spews like what lava out of him in that halfway through the fight. And then his lore, like it's just his design is cool and his attacks are cool, but I just struggle with him a lot. And I can't blame the boss for that. I struggle with him. So Lawrence gets an upgrade to C, and Moon Presence goes from B to A. So this is our finished final list here. And like I said earlier, give me your opinions. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorite boss is. Let me know your experience with some of these bosses. Let me know if some bosses that are harder than others weren't an issue to you at all. Let me know if some of the easier ones gave you some trouble, because everybody has different experiences, and I'd love to hear about it. So, thanks for watching all the way through. This one and the previous video were short, and I kind of like doing these shorter lists. But I think the Dark Souls tier lists were just really long because I dragged on and on and on about some of the stuff, and I apologize. But I just want to give you every single bit of my knowledge and opinion that I can to put everything in my head of what I'm thinking about these tier lists to the video. Anyway, again, multiple times now, thank you. Thanks for watching. If you like it, like it. If you want to sub. Doesn't bother me. And I hope you have a good day.